Good morning, God's people, family, and friends. Just getting on here to encourage God's people, to remind you that God knows exactly who you are, exactly what you've been through, and exactly where you're going. And that He will never leave you nor forsake you, and that He is with you through it all. He is with us through it all. He is with me through it all. I just want to get on here and encourage someone by sharing another testimony about where God took me back to remind me and to ingrain in my heart that He really does know me. And when you know that God knows you, it just changes the way you walk in life. You walk with your head high, not on pride, but in knowing that God is with you, that God will never leave you, that God will never forget you, that He's with you. And that's such a big security when you really believe that God is with you and that nothing can separate you from His love. I was thinking about the time where I was once again in the game, and I got bad in my addiction once again. And my intentions was to go to this other corner. This is another story with another corner, to rob someone so that I can feed my habit, because once again I was sick. So I remember going to this one corner and just was there maybe for like 10-15 minutes, and this car pulls up, and like 8 guys from another posse, that's what we call it, another posse, another street gang, pull up and just came out the car, and they started coming towards me, and one of them was saying that that I ripped his girl's chain off her neck. And you know what? For the first time, I can honestly say that I didn't do that. I didn't do that, but I was being accused of doing that. So anyway, in their mind, I did it. So they surrounded me, and they was about to, if it was up to them, they would have killed me, So they surrounded me, about to do exactly that. And all of a sudden, I heard a voice. And the voice that I heard said, "Leave him alone. I know him." And that voice stuck with me till now. So I didn't know exactly who it was at the time, but I know I heard that voice. And when that voice spoke like that, "Leave him alone because I know him," they all got away from me and just left, So once again, God interceding on my behalf. So later on in life, I began recovery. And, God starts to bring these remembrance to me about different episodes in my life where I almost got killed. So He started to remind me of that voice. "Leave him alone because I know him." And, a few years later in recovery, I seen this guy, because somebody posts about this guy, and he had passed away. And I knew him, but at the time when that was happening, I didn't know who it was that spoke that these people went away and didn't hurt me or kill me. So later on, I find out, and some people probably know him where I came from. Later on, I find out that it was this guy, and his name was Moses. It's crazy the way God do things. His name was Moses, and Moses and one of the meanings is Moses is the deliverer who delivered God's people. So at that time, it reminds me of the scripture where God says, even before you came out of your mother's womb, I knew you. So that voice was no different. That was the voice of God working through that man with power and authority to cause these people just to back away and leave me alone. He said, leave him alone because I know him. And God says the same thing about the enemy that's working against you. How many times have he said, and we don't even realize it, leave him alone, or leave her alone, or leave them alone because I know them, because I created them, because I put purpose on them, because no weapon formed against them will prosper, because I have a call on their life. So all that to say that God knows you, and no matter what you're going through right now, what situation we may face in the future, the security in that is that God knows you, that God will never leave you, that God will never forsake you, that God is not a man that he shall lie. People have failed us one way or another. And I forgive everyone that I thought that failed me, because they didn't really fail me. They just couldn't give me what they didn't have, what I expect them. Put high expectations on people, places, and things, and when it doesn't work out, you feel disappointed. So that's why in the process is learning how to depend on God more than others. And the more I depend on God rather than others, the less disappointed I am in my life, where I can walk in freedom in that area, where God is able to use me in that area to help someone else that's discouraged or need encouragement one way or another. I'm so grateful for the war and battles that I've been through, and the wars and battles that I'm going to go through, because every war and battle produced something where I seen the hand of God that encouraged me and that brought me to a place of security in that area, to be able to trust God no matter what's going on, no matter what's happening, no matter what's being shaken. So I'm so grateful that God opened my eyes to see his hand in my life, in spite of my life. God's love is so much powerful than the defects in the character. He knows who we are. He knows who he created us to be. When he created us, he says in the word that we were fearfully and wonderfully made. That means that when he created us, there was no mistake. He made no mistakes. So we didn't come with all these defects in our characters and all these twisted thinking. We picked that up along the way in order to get to places where I'm at right now in this particular area, where I can encourage someone and give them hope and remind them that they are not alone, and that God will never leave them, nor forsake them, nor abandon them. Separate God from people, because God is not like people. God is not hurt. God is not broken. God is whole, healed, and complete. And that is where we get our healing and completion and wholeness from him. The more we identify him, the more we identify his love, the more we see his hand in our lives one way or another, even when we didn't deserve his hand in our lives, the more we trust him a little bit more than I did yesterday, to be able to take the next step forward in the freedom that Christ came to give us. That for that purpose he came, to free us from our mindsets, from the deception, from the lies. And all boils down from things, corrupt seeds that got planted in us, in our thinking one way or another, by our past negative experiences with people, places, and things. But the more I realized that, the people that hurt me was broken just like I was. Once again, high expectations on someone to give me what they don't have to give me, because they themselves are broken and need to be healed and restored by God. So I just came in here to encourage you that we are heading in days ahead where everybody's shaky, don't know what's going to happen. We know what's going to happen. We know the report is good. We know that God, from the beginning of time has ordained things to come to pass, how he intended it to come to pass for the benefit of his people and for his will to be fulfilled here on the earth one way or another. So thank you for letting me share. I'm not sitting here like I got my life all together, but I'm sharing from places where I see the hand of God and where God has restored me and healed me, that I can have it to give it to you. So God bless. Fear not. God is with you. God is never going to leave you, and never allow anything to separate you from his love, because he didn't allow anything to separate us from his love. The things that we did still caused God to pursue us. He said in that while we were yet sinners, he sent Christ to die on our behalf. He did for us what we wasn't able to do for ourselves. And I'm so grateful that the more I realize that, the more I see God's love, the more I realize that, wow, I could have never even gotten to this place, save myself, free myself, heal myself, if God didn't intercede and did for me what I wasn't able to do for myself. So the process is in discovering and believing what God already done on our behalf. So I'm going to keep walking with him, because the more I do, the more things of a view, so that I can experience deeper freedom in him, so that I can be able to sit here and help people one way or another as he sees fit, and by the leading of his spirit, and not my broken flesh or my thoughts, but his thoughts that are renewed in my thinking because of the process, and him opening my eyes to see things in a different perspective, where I can walk freely to be able to help someone else. Thanks for letting me share. Thanks for hearing me out.